Dear visitors, we would like to welcome you to the latest updates on the global political situation on our YouTube channel. Here are some noteworthy highlights from today's program. Reports from Israel indicate that the IDF, Israel Defense Forces, continues to intensify its attacks on the ground in the northern part of the Gaza Strip, maintaining the siege of the city of Gaza. There have been numerous direct clashes with Hamas militants. The IDF has confirmed an airstrike on an ambulance near Shifa Hospital, believing that Hamas was using this vehicle for undercover operations and weapon transport. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus expressed shock at the Israeli attack on an ambulance near Gaza's largest hospital, despite IDF claims that some Hamas members were killed in the strike. More details on the incident were shared with Israel's allies. Israel alleges that it has evidence demonstrating that Hamas is using ambulances to transport personnel and weapons. They emphasize that this is a combat zone, and civilians in the area have been continually urged to evacuate southward for their safety. Israel claims that Hamas's main operations are located in and beneath Shifa Hospital. Additionally, Israel accuses Hamas of using other hospitals as hiding places. The IDF, Israel Defense Forces, states that it is prepared to expand its operations through a series of action plans, including a joint offensive with allied forces and coordinated combat in 3 directions: in the air, at sea, and on the ground. The IDF further emphasizes that the necessary tools for the conflict have been transferred to the assembly areas, and various units from the IDF's Technology and Logistics Corps are working to ensure the readiness of combat tools and equipment for the soldiers. According to the IDF's announcement, different IDF battalions and medical teams have been deployed throughout the country, ready to enhance their readiness for the next stages of the operation. Focus on a significant ground operation is expected in Gaza, as reported by the Times of Israel. However, the scale and timing of this operation may be influenced by considerations, including the evacuation of Palestinian civilians from the northern part of Gaza. Increased tensions on the Israeli northern Gaza border have prompted the IDF to call on Palestinian residents in the north of Gaza to evacuate, using designated evacuation corridors from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. In the announcement, the IDF emphasized that they may be prepared to launch a ground assault after a week of intense clashes in response to the bloody Hamas offensive on October 7th. In an evening press conference, IDF spokesman Daniel Hagar stated that the Israeli military is continuing its efforts to eliminate Hamas field commanders. Hamas is reportedly preparing for an extended conflict in Gaza and believes it can delay Israel's progress long enough to force a ceasefire. It is reported that Hamas has stockpiled missile weaponry, food, and medical supplies, and is confident that thousands of its fighters can survive for months in a city with extensive underground tunnels, frustrating Israeli tactics of urban warfare. Hamas also hopes to apply international pressure on Israel to lift the siege as civilian casualties increase. In such a scenario, Israel may be compelled to cease fire and engage in negotiations. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is on his 3rd visit to the Middle East within just over a month, underlining U.S. commitment to pushing for a ceasefire in Gaza. Blinken emphasized a firm stance, warning that Israel risks undermining the last chance for peace if it does not take rapid actions to improve humanitarian conditions in Gaza. He also reiterated the call for a humanitarian ceasefire to facilitate humanitarian operations and the release of hostages. Blinken said, "We are fully focused on reuniting the hostages with their families. Along with other measures, a humanitarian ceasefire could help achieve this goal." However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejected the U.S. proposal for a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza, stating that Israel would not agree to a ceasefire unless Hamas released all the hostages. Netanyahu stated, "We are moving forward at full force and we will refuse any temporary ceasefire that does not include the release of our hostages. Israel will not allow the transfer of fuel to Gaza and opposes the transfer of funding to Hamas." Since the conflict began, Israel has suffered many civilian casualties, as well as casualties among soldiers, security personnel, police officers, and emergency workers. Blinken's visit to the Middle East comes amid rising concerns about the possibility of a broad conflict. In his first public statement since the conflict began, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah declared that the armed group in Lebanon had joined the fighting in the Gaza Strip. Daily clashes with the Israeli military have been ongoing near the Lebanon-Israel border. U.S. experts emphasize that the current crisis could lead to a larger and more widespread conflict, with no clear resolution for both sides. Amid this situation, the United Nations Humanitarian Coordination Office requested $1.2 billion in emergency aid to assist 2.7 million people, including the entire population of Gaza and 500,000 people, in the West Bank. Earlier on October 12th, the UN called for $294 million to support nearly 1.3 million people. However, the situation has worsened since then. The U.S. Department of Defense confirmed that drone missions began after Hamas's attack on Aaron on October 7th, where over 200 hostages were taken. To support the efforts to rescue hostages, the U.S. carried out unarmed drone flights over Gaza and provided advice and support to Israel as they conducted their own hostage rescue efforts. Some observers have spotted MQ-9 Reaper drones circling over Gaza using flight tracking websites. While the MQ-9 drone is capable of carrying out airstrikes, it is also frequently used for surveillance due to its advanced sensors and the ability to fly continuously for over 24 hours. According to multiple U.S. officials, these drone missions marked the first time U.S. drones operated over Gaza. However, they stress that the drone flights do not support ground military operations by Israel and are aimed at monitoring critical indicators and transferring potential information to IDF. Additionally, the U.S. is sending 2 military medical teams to Israel to support evacuation efforts. U.S. defense officials emphasize that the decision to send drones and military medical teams demonstrates the importance the U.S. places on the safe recovery of hostages and its commitment to supporting Israel. The Israeli Air Force launched another large-scale operation against Hamas in Gaza on October 13th. The operation, named Shattered Shield, focuses on destroying Hamas's underground tunnel infrastructure and command centers. IDF spokesperson Hagar stated that the Israeli Air Force and Intelligence Corps had jointly prepared for a targeted attack on Hamas's underground infrastructure. The IDF has expressed concerns that the extended conflict has given Hamas time to strengthen its positions in northern Gaza, constructing bunkers and other fortifications. Thank you for tuning into our program. Stay informed, and we'll keep you updated on this rapidly evolving situation.